At Tessel Gaming, we decided it was high time for another Pokemon Legacy video. So we went to good old RNG and rolled Weezing. I thought it was a horrible idea, but Kieran was adamant to try it, so here goes nothing. Weezing has two faces, so it was only fitting that we find a way to name him after Harvey Dent from Batman. I was still a bit miffed at having to play with Weezing, and having little faith that this was going to end well. And Weezing is a poison type that kind of stinks, so we went with the very mature and nuanced name Pooh-Face for our Weezing.
Gen 1 is the most unfriendly generation to poison types of all time. It's no contest. Since we knew we'd be on the back foot with Weezing this gen, we planned on having it act like a hand grenade, and so it just made sense to run a boom offense team. While there are definitely better explosion users out there, Weezing's decent-ish speed means it can scare out some Pokemon before threatening its explosion. Its good defense means we can also abuse another Gen 1 quirk, Fire Blast's 30% burn rate to scare physical attackers, which most notably includes Tauros. And since we're rocking an offensive team, it made sense to run either Gengar or Jinx as our lead, and since we prefer to hit our moves, we elected to use Nikki the Jinx. It was very consistent on putting the opponent on the back foot, occasionally picking up a kill in addition to throwing out a lovely kiss, and it would scare out Pokemon that Weezing would invite in later in the game, so consistent performer. Tauros is the boss in Gen 1, and he was there for speed control. Though we ditched the most typical coverage move in Earthquake in favor of Thunderbolt to hit Cloyster. Our team is very weak to Cloyster, and so we decided to make that change up for Tauros, and it worked out perfectly. Tauros was an absolute goddamn menace, nothing could stop him. We then ran Boom Snorlax to smash holes into the opposing team, and to beat opposing Reflect Snorlax if our special attackers were down and out. It does go 1-for-1, and that's pretty good on a fast-paced defensive team. P-Face the Executor was our backup sleeper and paralysis spreader, which we often needed since we struggled to always get off the sleep. It could threaten out plenty of Pokemon, most notably the big three normal types, and Alakazam, which we were very weak to. And finally, we had our last exploder, Cloyster, or Beam. There was a Tauros check, which worked most of the time, as well as a bomb that we could drop whenever we needed to remove a specific target. We ended this gen with a 7-3 record, a bit disappointing since we're generally pretty solid at Gen 1, but, Weezing truly didn't do much most of the time. Oftentimes it was just not strong enough with its explosion trade 1-for-1, and if it were slower than another dangerous Pokemon, it would be toast. The abundance of fast psychic types makes it very difficult for Weezing to work, and often we'd have to make very risky doubles to actually get it in. Still though, we made it work to some degree, and it wasn't all bad. This gen was a big enough struggle though that we had to do our boy dirty and name him Pooh-Face because he played like Pooh sometimes.
In Gen 2, we decided to force the otherwise slow meta into having quick games with a boom offense. Starting off our booms was our boy Pooh-Face, the Weezing, with Fire Blast for steals, Toxic to wear down teams, and Thief to help break walls with leftovers. Our lead was the 3-face P-face Aggie to open with Sleep Powder and Leech Seed, then explode or keep Psychic for offense. Our ubiquitous Snorlax with his Diabetes was also Boom, with Body Slam, Earthquake, and Curse to set up, and only exploding on high priority targets. For the non-Boom half of our team, we had our Rock Thorns, the modern day equivalent of Iron Thorns, with a Curse and Rest Talk set, and Rock Slide being the attack of choice over Earthquake, so it didn't bonk against flying. Then we had Machamp, Benjamin 10, with Meditate to prevent speed loss on setup over Curse, and with Cross Chop, EQ, and Body Slam, and he would help against normal and dark types. Lastly, we had Raikou with a Rest Talk set, with Thunder and HP Ice. We named him Cloud Strike, but should have just called him him, because he was him. We ended this gen with an 8-2 record, which we'll take since Gen 2 is one of our weaker generations. The Boom offense functioned quite well. Aggie was a good lead, with Sleep and Leech Seed being a great opening 1-2 punch. Snorlax and T-Tar, both having curse sets, supplied multiple opportunities to try and sweep, or match opposing curse sets, since we had no phasing. Raikou ended up being the GOAT, countering opposing Zapdos, often doing good damage to Snorlax switching in, and applying tons of pressure in general. Weezing did well with fire coverage, being a great choice to slaughter Skarm and Fortress, and Thief also doing work at breaking opposing walls. Machamp was a bit of a weak link, but was good physical coverage when needed. The only big problem this team faced was a lack of good answers to ground types like Nidoking, whenever we started a game by exploding Executor. Overall, a solid generation.
If you watched our last two challenge runs, you know that we blow at Gen 3. It's our worst competitive generation, no doubt, and we were dreading playing it again. So desperate, and I mean desperate for a winning record, we decided to use a proven team that Weezing's new ability, Levitate, could benefit. That being Superman. Superman teams are nearly all airborne, but get pieced up by really strong physical attackers once Skarmory is removed. We thought Weezing could fill that gap for us, especially with its new move, Will-O-Wisp. We live with our old reliable Rock Thorns, running a special bait set to remove Swampert, as well as Pursuit, Trap, fast psychic types that tended to really bug our slow, bulky team. It always did amazing, never failed to do whatever we needed of it. Perfect performer. A Superman team needs its spikes, and so we drafted physically defensive Skarmory or Big Bird to spread the love. It got blasted by Magneton some, but it was generally decent. Whenever there wasn't a Magneton, it would kind of pop off. To stop rapid spin attempts, we needed a ghost, and so we went with a very unusual Mischievous. Kevin wasn't great, but it did its job, and occasionally disabled stall teams with its annoying traits and worked great with paralysis support. To spread that paralysis, and to have some insurance against special attacks, plus size the Blissey made its entrance. It consistently performed, and it only ever let us down when Dugtrio trapped and removed it, but the ability to guard against Zapdos was invaluable enough to make it worth the risk. And finally, we have the GOAT of the team, Viper, the Flygon. Viper nearly single-handedly saved 4 or so games for us because it's just defensively and offensively amazing. It checks so much in the game. As long as we had Viper on our side, we weren't worried about Aerodactyl, Tyranitar, Metagross, Charizard, Zapdos, Claydol, whatever. Viper was there for us, no doubt about it. We ended this gen with a positive record finally into his great by our standards, and we mostly had Rock, Thorns, and Viper to thank for it. Pooface put in great work against stall teams thanks to its access to Taunt, letting him mess with Blissey and Skarmory, but against offensive teams, sometimes it just kind of, throw out some stuff before getting sacked. Generally though, that was enough, and his teammates covered the mixed attackers and offensive teams well enough that Pooface just had to do its thing against stall, which it did. The only time we really fell apart was against Hidden Power Ice attackers with Dugtrio, because they'd removed plus size and Viper couldn't carry. Other than that though, the team was great, no complaints.
And you see, in their last moments, people show you